Eu queria... Não sei se vocês estão vendo a minha tela.
Estamos vendo, Fernando, mas tem que trocar aí em cima aí para você colocar outra tela para te ver.
Ah, tá. E agora, ok?
Agora, ok. E agora estamos mudando de idioma, hein, Fernando?
Muito bom, muito bom. Já vamos mudar. Eu só quero agradecer para finalizar essa etapa aqui da nossa entrevista, finalizando e já iniciando a próxima, com agradecimento novamente aos nossos patrocinadores, a H2O, a Suzano, a Semantics, a Educacross e a FIA Proinfo. Muito obrigado a vocês. E nesse horário aqui das 13h30, nós temos a semana toda as nossas apresentações de startups, dessas incríveis startups que estão fazendo a revolução nesse mundo de AI. Então, todo dia nós temos aí um painel de startups dos mais diversos lugares, né? Nós temos aí da Europa, da América do Norte, tivemos até uma da África ontem, da América Latina. Então, nós temos aí um panorama de startups pelo mundo que bastante enriquece a nossa visão sobre o que está sendo acontecendo dentro do mundo. E eu queria agora, nós vamos fazer, a partir de agora, nós vamos trabalhar em inglês, né? Então, nós temos aqui 2 trilhas, nós vamos ter 2 canais no YouTube, para quem está nos acompanhando e quiser continuar aqui neste canal. Nesse canal você vai conseguir ouvir uma tradução simultânea, ou se você quiser ouvir o original em inglês, por favor, acesse o outro canal que está sendo colocado aí no chat, tá? No link que está sendo colocado no chat. Então, a partir de agora, we'll be talking in English, okay? So, in our panel today, we will have 3 startups from Portugal. Portugal, I have been living there last year, and it's a country, a lovely country, and we have a startup ecosystem that is being developed very fast, and we have plenty of startups that deserves to be here and deserves to we deserve to know what they are doing right now. We have invited 3 Portuguese startups to be with us today. They will be a press, and then we will have the Nilg AI, and then the newsroom. These 3 startups will be presenting and making a pitch of 7-minute speech to us to present their applications, what they are doing, their business model, so what they are implementing, what are the differentiations that they have in the market. The first one will be Matt Wade. He is CEO of a press. He will be talking about Explainable AI, enable the world's transition to trustworthy AI. Then after him, we will have Kelvin Fernandes, CEO of Nilg. He will be talking about unlocking business capabilities using data intelligence. And then Jenny Romano and Pedro from the newsroom, they will be talking about fight the misinformation and promote plurality online. And remember, all of you, that after the pitches of our startups, we will have one presentation from Joana Paiva, that is a CTO and co-founder of ILof. This company is an amazing company that is doing a lot of things in the field of personalized medicine, and we will have a pleasure to have her here with us. So let's start with our startups. So I would like to invite Matt Wade to present your considerations. Welcome, Matt.
Obrigado, Fernando. Desculpe, meu português é muito mal, mas thank you for doing it in English. So I will go ahead and share my screen. Great. Thank you, I2AI, for having us today. I'm going to chat with you a bit about explainable AI and enabling the world's transition to trustworthy AI. Now, what the heck does that mean? So for us, what we believe really AI trust means is trust to be fair, trust to be compliant, trust to be performant, not just explainability, not just what you hear as sort of the title of what an explainable model can be or a trustworthy model can be, but these components that allow you to adopt AI, integrate it, and improve ROI for the business. Now, we as a group have built AI products for decades. We come from places like American Express and Bridgewater Associates, where we're applying psychometrics and deep explainable characteristics about models to improve model-based results. Now, we have gone on and raised $1.6 million in financing from places like Adara Ventures, Faber, and Techstars. Now, why are we here? Because 87% of models fail. They fail to make it into production. They fail when they meet the organization. They fail to do their job. Now, maybe you're saying to yourself, well, my models don't fail. 85% of models will encounter errors in production. These are things like bias or sort of irregularities that you would find in production that can displace the model itself and maybe throw up a compliance issue. At the end of the day, even if you make it as far as having a great model, 80% of dollars invested into every model go to data processing. All of the reporting, all of sort of the manicuring of information that's required to produce a performant model, 80%, and all of the scientists in the room, I'm sure, are nodding. That's the most painful part. 80% of that time, 80% of the dollars go into data processing. This creates sort of a concoction of issues for any organization. It is fundamentally hard, and we just heard from H2O, who solves one problem in this value chain. It is notoriously hard to develop, maintain, and productionalize models that you can trust. This leads to poor adoption, really high costs. I know that we were talking about ROI a bit in the previous presentation. Really high costs mean lower ROI, and then variable performance. Really, if you can't trust that a model is going to interact with the market in the ways that you would expect, that performance is not trustworthy fundamentally. So companies have a problem. What we do is we introduce an expert system that continuously improves model-based results. We actually integrate with organizations to ask them questions about the model itself, its behavior, the way that it's trying to meet the business. We explain these characteristics and we allow them to take actions on it. What this does, it improves adoption, it dramatically lowers the cost, and it improves performance. Let me walk you through really how we do this. So this model agnostic integration essentially backs the database that a company gives us with a graph representation of the problem itself. This gives us layers of interpretability that companies fundamentally don't have. If you're looking at
interpretação, talvez se você olhar para o Uber, Netflix, essas empresas incríveis, a gente pensa, como é que eu posso fazer isso? Como é que eles conseguiram? Como é que eu posso aprender deles também? Eles olham todo o modelo, a gente olha todo o modelo e a gente tenta ajudá-los a fazer a organização da empresa. As empresas têm que entender que eles têm que fazer algumas ações para encontrar os melhores consumidores, mudar algumas características para integrar o sistema. Mais do que olhar apenas para as porcentagens, o que a gente tem que entender é que a gente tem que interpretar o modelo. 65% de chance de fraude.
By looking at the characteristics of model-based results, we can actually tell you how you can reduce that likelihood by maybe changing the data itself, or maybe changing the model configuration. We offer these layers of interpretation at prediction levels, at cohort levels, and at the highest global level to give everybody inside of the organization a view into how models are behaving and how they're interacting with the business. What this means is we step beyond explainability into a layer of interpretation. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with, feature importance in these graphs. What we've done is we've bucketed these behaviors into a way that can be interpretable fundamentally. So not only are you getting global reports that a business can understand compliance and understand really model-based behavior, and local reports that can help you understand the nuance of certain decisions, you're getting that information contextualized so that you can begin to take actions. Now that we know that we have certain features that are taking, certain priority, we can actually map them in a space that the company is unfamiliar with to draw out new understanding about the information so that you can create new features, create new monitoring characteristics, create interactions that the organization actually sort of resonates with, like understanding that revenue is a core characteristic and engagement is a core characteristic. We can actually put that on a map and allow the organization to navigate their priorities by decisions. So you can actually move people between what you believe is good, bad, and indifferent, which nets new features, new understanding, and new performance for the organization. At the end of the day, what we do is we iterate over all of this data to come up with the best combination of information and the best decision for the business itself. We focus on decisions. We focus on the way that those decisions meet the organization to improve ROI from the model itself. This isn't just a model. It's not just the data. It's actually an interface into decision-making for the organization where you can interact with layers of explainability to improve the rate of ROI. We do this for many different use cases, from customer churn to fraud and risk. So when an organization really integrates with Apprae, we're not just answering one question. It's not enough to say that a customer might churn or there might be risk inside of the organization. The organization itself needs an understanding of how this information is translated between silos in the organization or inside of the decisions that the organization is trying to make. That's what we enable. This fundamental understanding that I've just described, maybe it's applied to fraud. Once we understand the risk components of the business, we can better understand how to find better customers. If we understand who your best customers are, we can actually translate that into understanding who might actually churn. For the first time, organizations can have network effects within their data and their understanding, and that can interact inside of predictive models that all of us know and love. So that when a churn customer makes that 98% likelihood to churn, we can actually understand how that might impact fraud and risk and next best offer. The interactions with customers that we've had to date has been phenomenal. We asked, it was highlighted that maybe we might talk about our business model a bit. We charge based on a data consumption basis. So we integrate with companies' models. We charge based on a consumption basis, which allows our customers to net ROI higher than if we were just producing models. The interactions with companies like OLX, a multinational based out of Europe, has been an 80% improvement. That's actually churn, a 10% reduction in cost in the largest risk consultancy in the world, a company called Kroll, and 75% faster time to get to production with a safe model for an AI startup called Chemo AI. Again, we are Apprae. We're helping the world build responsible AI, and please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Matt. Very well done. Really brilliant presentation.
Thank you, Fernando. Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Something that the world needs, the world of AI needs your product for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
And now I am proud to invite Kelvin Fernandes from Nilg AI to tell about his presentation and what did you bring for us today, Kelvin? You are mute.
Yeah, sorry for not changing the background, but I already changed my shirt twice, and the camera still put a floating face around the camera. So I'm not sure why it's doing that, but let me know when you can see my screen. I guess you can see it.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm Kelvin. I'm the founder of Nilg AI. And the main goal of Nilg AI is basically unlocking business capabilities using data intelligence. We are a consulting company in AI. We are based in Portugal, and we have been working from small startups to big corps on making efficient decisions using data. Our main key differentiating characteristic is that while most people simplify business requirements to match the technology, so we typically, as data scientists, start making assumptions and narrowing the business need until we can use a classifier or whatever model we know. What we typically do is we adapt the technology, we understand the business, so we can modify the technology and elevate the technology so we can easily integrate the data into the final decisions. We have been working in multiple industries over the last 3 years and working with from startups to large corporations to achieve this goal in all main areas of AI, from machine learning, computer vision, NLP, among others. In terms of some clients we have to work with, we have ILof, one of the largest telcos in Portugal, Intel, Continental, which is one of the biggest automotive companies around the world, as well as many other startups. As you can see in this map, most of our clients are distributed all over the world. So we are in Portugal, but not just focused in Portugal. As we aim for long-term relationships, and I think this is a key feature when you are looking for a partner to work in the development of your internal AI capabilities. With some of our clients, we have been working since our foundation. So I think this is a key aspect. One of our main practices is data ignite. It's basically a design thinking for AI, something that we have been building, which is a methodology for doing consulting in AI, so we can mitigate risks in AI projects. So basically, when people think about AI projects, they typically just think about the model, but the model is just a small part of the whole pipeline. We need to think about how the predictions will become decisions, how the decisions will become actions, what risk will this imply, how will the business change, what processes will need to be added. And all of this creates an actually very complex ecosystem that we typically narrow just to the model. So in this methodology we have built, we try to map, we help our clients to map all this roadmap so they can identify easily bottlenecks, in an early fashion bottlenecks. They can avoid mistakes, they can quickly validate their products, their ideas. Some flagship projects I just brought, projects in 3 categories, in 3 industries that I felt were more interesting. In the area of marketing, here we have worked in dozens of projects over the whole customer journey, from lead conversions, such as what are the most likely leads to convert to a paid subscription, to detect and prevent churn. So what is the best action to keep a customer, to upselling recommendations. And when I mean upselling, I don't mean just what is the best recommendation in terms of content or in terms of product, but also other aspects of the recommendation, such as what is the best channel to communicate with a specific customer, or what is the best timing to communicate with a given customer, or what is the best speech to sell a product, as well as many other projects around marketing, like lifetime value, sentiment analysis, etc. In the area of healthcare, our activity has been focused on 2 main directions. One is procedure-centric decision support. So everything that goes on the medical side, on the clinic side, such as does this sample has enough quality? Are my procedures complying with the protocols, with the medical protocols, and detecting errors on those procedures? Hospital management, like predicting who is not coming for the next appointment, or optimizing the schedule of the visits, of the consultations, etc. On the other end of the spectrum, on patient-centric, we have been working with several medical device manufacturers to provide AI into their devices. Let's say cervical cancer and respiratory lung issues has been 2 of the main areas we have worked on in the past few years. Finally, the third area I brought, in fintech, we have been working as the area typically does on credit scoring and also default prediction from a loan payment, as well as many other aspects such as forecasting of market indicators, compliance on regulations with your internal docs, as well as categorizing entities such as transactions, businesses, clients, etc. So as you can see, we have been working in a lot of areas, and this creates a lot of innovation. Just as a small evidence of this, we have been actively publishing also papers in conferences and journals, as well as patents with our customers. So I think this is a strong validation of our innovation capabilities. So in case you are looking for a trusted partner to build and execute AI use cases and to build your data roadmap in your company, just feel free to book a call with us, and we'll be glad to help.
Okay, Kelvin. Very good. I have learned a lot, and I loved your approach and your projects. What you are doing is amazing. thank you very much for your presentation and for the work you have been done in Portugal and abroad. Thank you. And now our last startup pitch today will be the newsroom. And we have here, I'm proud to announce it, Jenny and Pedro. They are talking about a subject that is worrying all of us today, that is misinformation, fake news, and things like that. So I'd like to call you, and the stage is yours for your pitch. Pedro and Jenny, welcome.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen.
Let us know if you can see it.
Oh, yes, that's fine.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. We are Jenny and Pedro, and we are the co-founders of the Newsroom. Our mission is to fight misinformation and promote plurality online. But first of all, why are we here, and why did we decide to start this journey? Well, I am Jenny. I am the co-founder and CEO of the Newsroom. Pedro here is our co-founder, COO, and head of product. And before starting to work on the Newsroom together, we were both working in large technology companies. I took more the path of pre-sales consulting and then sales, while Pedro dedicated most of his career to data science. As we were working in technology companies, we were also reflecting very broadly around how technology enables the propagation of information, be it good or bad, and how, most importantly, it could be used for good. So after some due reflections, we decided to combine our complementary set of skills and to start the Newsroom together. Now, the issue that we're trying to solve is that of misinformation. I am fairly sure we are all aware of it and of its implication, but what does it actually mean in numbers? So let's consider that there are about 2 billion people reading news online nowadays, and 62% of them report they do not trust what they read online. This, paired with the information overload that we are all subject to on a daily basis, leads to offline consequences in decisions that we take as citizens, in general erosion of trust in the news, but also in each other, and as a result in rising polarization. And the solutions that have been built so far to tackle misinformation, such as fact checkers, social media flags, and the current AI tools, are valid ones, but they are not very effective because they are inaccessible, manual, or black boxed, or actually a combination of the three. And when we decided to start working on the Newsroom, we deliberately decided to start exclusively with a problem statement. And that problem statement, back in October of last year, was then informed through a series of interviews. We had one-on-one conversations with over 100 experts, from technologists to behavioral psychologists, ethical journalists, of course, as well as users who are avid news readers online. And we use these conversations to then build the pillars of what our product statement, a product concept would be. And then that has been the foundation of everything we have been working on so far. The 4 key ingredients that we identified are scale, ease of access, transparency, and context. So firstly, scale. We would not be here if scale wasn't one of them. We decided to use AI to tackle misinformation very simply because it's a massive issue. And if we look at very simply the sheer number of articles and the volume of information that propagates online, we do need a scalable solution to address it. Secondly, ease of access. When users are consuming news, if you want to provide them with insights on what they're reading, the experience has to be as frictionless as possible. Thirdly, transparency. And this is probably the most important pillar that we are basically obsessed with. People don't like being told what to do. They don't like being told that they're wrong, or that they could be, or they should be questioning their beliefs and thoughts. Without having the authority of telling people what to do, that is definitely not our job. But we do encourage through our technology to question what you think, what you're reading, regardless of whether you believe in it or not. So what is behind the news? And transparency for this is absolutely crucial. And this is probably the most important aspect of our work at the newsroom. And lastly, context. Our ambition is also to build plurality online and to foster plurality online. That is based on healthy debate. And in order for you to get there, you need context on the news. How did we get here? So let's understand the historical context behind what I'm reading, but also how do other people think about it? Because understanding another person's point of view, especially if they think differently from us, is definitely the key lever to then have a healthy debate online and offline.
And so we incorporated these 4 aspects into our product concept. We built a browser extension. So as a user, as you're scrolling through the internet, you pass through different news articles. Our extension will give you straight away an assessment or an overview of the trustworthiness of the articles you see. Then if you click over it, you're able to see a detailed explanation of what that assessment exactly means and how our algorithm got to it. What are the different elements that go into it? And you're able as a user to deep dive into each of them, each of the pieces that then make up the general assessment of it. We also allow users to provide feedback and to identify and flag any issues they see in our technology and our assessments. Now, obviously, within our products as well as our business, we incorporated a lot of principles of responsible AI, and we thought it would be useful to share these with the audience today. And so there are 4 key principles we've incorporated. The first one being human centricity. And the big principle here is never to look at your technology in a silo. So whatever technology we're building, we're always building it with a human purpose at the end of the day. And so we need to incorporate that into how we design it and how we assess the impact of what we're building. So for example, in our case, we could have built a different type of technology that would have the same accuracy from a technology point of view as the one we've built. But a lot of tests we did, we saw that actually they weren't as effective in driving user trust. And so at the end of the day, if you're assessing the impact of what you're building, you need to go beyond assessing the accuracy of the technology and actually assessing the effectiveness of driving the human behavior you're trying to drive. The second big pillar is transparency. And here, very simply, black box solutions are just not good enough anymore. You need to understand how your AI is driving the conclusions they're driving. The third piece is fairness. So obviously algorithms are built by humans. They embed a lot of human biases into the data they consume. And so we need to be able to ensure that they're fair in how they assess. And we can only do this by measuring the performance of our algorithms across different populations. The final piece is privacy and security. And here, if your technology is consuming or is gathering user data, you need to ensure that it is complying with 3 guidelines. 1, the users are aware of it. They're aware you're collecting their data. 2, that is driving value for the user. And thirdly, if you're collecting personal or sensitive information, that data needs to be well protected. Now, as Jenny mentioned before, we started our project, our journey in October of last year. Since then, we've released the first MVP of our technology. We'll recently release the extension for public use in November. And we have big ambitions for the next 12 months, both in terms of user growth, but also in terms of impact. We've been recognized by a few different international bodies, including the European Investment Bank. We've also recently partnered with TTC Labs to develop people-centric approaches to algorithmic explainability. And this will act as an input both for industry best practices, but also for governmental policy. Now, how can you help? We'd love your help, especially in 2 ways. One is testing out our technology. So if you can head out to our website, newsroom.ai, you'll be able to sign up to be one of our beta users. And secondly, to raise awareness. You can follow us on LinkedIn and help us make some noise around this issue of misinformation. Now, to finish off, misinformation is unanimously considered the biggest challenge for journalism today. And our mission is to fight back in a way that is effective and scalable. We'd love for you all to join us in that mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pedro and Jenny. It was amazing, very good presentation. And these things we have to pay attention, and I'd like to test your solution. I will be our beta tester. And I would like to thank you all of our startups today. And I hope you meet you in Portugal. I will be there for Web Summit, and I hope meet you in Portugal, in Lisbon. Okay. Well, now I would like to share my screen again. Okay, is it okay? I think. Well, I2AI, as you know, is an association, and one thing that we like to do is the events. We have been doing events since our very beginning, and this every year we are working to make an agenda that is inclusive and can be a complete, and it can be to take care of all of these AI subjects. As you can see here, we have been done all year. Every month we have one event. These events were all online this time, and they are for free. And we have some events that are in some verticals, like the retail, like verticals, like healthcare, ethics, agribusiness, and so on. And we have also events that are cross-industry, like this one. So we will have our next event will be in November, AI Journey. That is one of our best events because we will have our notable members that you provide some workshops, and this is very amazing for someone who wants to learn something. You have workshops, hands-on workshops to learn AI in a different way. And you also will have the A2AI Awards in the end of November, when we can award some personalities that are doing something very recognizable in AI environment. I'd like to invite you, all of you, to become a member of A2AI. You have a lot of advantages being a member, like discounts in our courses. But beyond this, we have the opportunity to talk with other people, to integrate, to participate in our committees, and also in our network events. And also, you can talk with our notable members. These people are some people that we invite to be member of our I2AI. They are people that know, they are expert in their fields of AI. So we have some best of the best here in our association. And you becoming a member, you will be able to talk directly with these persons. I also want to recommend you to become a member, because you will be, you can take part of one of our 8 committees. As you can see, we have an innovation committee, and we have an ethics and governance committee, and healthcare, and another one in AI, IoT, and analytics, AI and education. Another one is machine learning. Another one is retail. And I would like to show you a special one, is a new one that we have to congregate the international people from A2AI. And we have the AI Connected World that is managed by Tiago Novelli. This committee is especially doing for people outside from Brazil, and it is running in English, in English language. So if you are abroad of Brazil, you want to engage with us, you will have this committee to talk with your peers. Well, and during the week, at this time at 2 o'clock in Brazil, We have had Maria Schmier yesterday from Deepcake with very interesting case about deepfakes and the production of films using fakes. We will have today Joana Paiva, and I will introduce her in a moment. Tomorrow we will have Hubert Beroshi from Urban AI, and Thursday, and Schmucker from Mercedes-Benz. So they are very experts in their fields, and I think it deserves to be seen. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody for our next session that I'm sure will be very interesting. I'd like to introduce you to Joana Paiva from ILof. She's the CTO and co-founder of ILof. Joana is a PhD scientist, highly motivated to the computational aspects of biomedical engineering. She has been involved in several research projects in the area of biomedical engineering, biooptics, and artificial intelligence, following always a tight collaboration dynamics between the academy and the industry. She is the author of more than 10 articles in international scientific journals and several patent filings. She is currently an invited assistant professor at the University of Porto. Today, she is going to talk about using photonics and AI in the new era of personalized medicine. Joana, I would like to invite you to come here. Let me...
Hello all. Thank you so much, Fernando. Hope that you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
So I will share my screen in a moment. So yeah, I cannot share it yet.
Try again, please.
Yes, okay. I believe that you can see something now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Fine now. Go ahead,
Perfect.
Good luck.
So thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. As Fernando introduced myself, so my name is Joana. I'm currently the CTO of ILof. So ILof, as the name is explained, is called Intelligent Lab on Fiber, and our mission is to bring photonics, so a new area that is new to this conference. So it's the use of light in technology and the use of artificial intelligence to solve problems in healthcare, in specific for disease stratification and disease prognosis. So I will explain the several use cases that we are trying to solve and the several customers that we are trying to deliver this product. My background is in biomedical engineering. I made a PhD in physics as well. So, and I was the creator of this technology, but since the beginning, I trusted that this technology has to be reached from the science part of the market. And together with my beloved 3 co-founders, we decided to go in a fundraising journey, and we are now trying to build this platform. So I will start to explain you. Sorry, but this is hiding some context of the presentation. I will try to explain you since the beginning what is the importance of photonics and the optical fiber sensors and all the optical and miniaturization of instruments in medicine and also in analytics in order to do diagnosis and to analyze microstructures that can be found in our physiological fluids. So all this started because, as you imagine, there is a lot of instruments in lab hospitals, as for example, microscopes, flow cytometry, instruments that are very big and that must be miniaturized to be operated. and must be intelligent at the point that it's not enough to see micro think, but must to analyze in order to have more information that could be key in order to take clinical decisions, and or in order to provide meaningful information to the physician to take clinical decisions. So more or less about 10 years ago, so all the engineers working in instrumentation for laboratories and also clinical applications started to look for ways to miniaturize these instrumentation. Why? Because at the same time, we can use smaller volumes of samples. We can improve and the reproducibility of the experiments, and also increase the number of experiments at the same time that we reduce the economic impact, because we reduce the cost of those experiments. But for reducing the size of these lab components or these lab instruments, we have also to compromise and look and advance in the technology side. So this came, and the light has become as a really become as a really good point in trying to evolve on this technology side. And from the point of view of the miniaturization, and also to understand better, so good information, and take good information about so specific structures that are found in our blood fluids, in our physiological fluids, as saliva, blood, serum, plasma, and so on. Because it is not enough looking to our body and our signals in a composition. With the evolution of the technology in order to miniaturize, it allows us to also to look individually to smaller and smaller structure, as for example to cells and other substructures segregated by cells. And looking individually to cells, it's been very useful, because a set of cells could respond in a specific way, but a single cell can respond in different way, depending if they have different or they are submitted to different external external factors, and external nutrients, and external survival factors modes. The evolution of the medicine, so they concluded, the scientists concluded that these differences among the factors that the set of cells that compose our body, so is the origin for the variability of the diseases that most of the time dictate how we respond to the treatment. So having in place technology capable of analyzing individually these structures has been the key in order to have insights about the origin of the variability of the diseases. In this context, as I said, there has been an effort in order to go deeper and go smaller in the structures that we are capable of analyzing and detecting in our body fluids, in our blood, in our saliva, in our urine. And one of these cases is the extracellular vesicles. Extracellular vesicles are vesicles and subparticles that are produced by cells, and have been involved in the early detection of several diseases, as for example cancer. So there has been a lot of evidences in literature that these particles can be presented in the blood before a specific tumor can be installed in an organ. So its detection, and again, the light could be the key in order to detect these particles, could accelerate the detection of specific diseases, and also the differentiation of and the selection of what would be the best treatment to apply. So, as I mentioned, there has been a lot of discussion what would be the most suitable sensing methods in order to apply for detecting these several structures, as the cells, as the extracellular vesicles, in order to do this individualization of the structures that compose our body in order to understand the origin of diseases. But the light has been the one that offers the most advantage features, because they allow using light allows no preparation of samples. It is a low cost and fast way of detecting structures, and the spatial resolution in comparison with other with other sensing methods, it's much more significant and worth to apply. So light has been applied in several instruments in order to characterize cells, tissues, extracellular vesicles, and a lot of biological material along the years. But optical fibers that you probably use at your home in order to have access to the internet, have been used in a lot of cases as biomedical sensors in order to detect specific targets, as for example, detecting molecules associated with the presence of a cancer, detect glycosis, monitoring if a specific biomarker associated, if you will evolve in a severe state or not associated with the disease. However, these sensors based on light and optical fibers are always based on chemical compounds as antibodies and other complex structures at the tip of the fibers or at the surface of the fibers, that allows the light to interact with them in order to detect the specific biomarker. So what we are trying to do, it's completely revolutionize the way, so the detection of these specific biomarkers is being made, and use only the light that is guided through the optical fibers, and without using any biomarker detection method, so without using any antibody or chemical compound attached to the fiber, and only based on the light that interacts with the small molecules that compose the blood sample that is collected from the patient, have a pattern that is correlated with the states, with the health state of the patient. And this pattern could be targeted and associated with specific phenotypes associated with the patient. So what we do is we collect this optical fingerprint that is basically an optical characteristic based biological fingerprint that is collected from the fiber that we analyze the sample provided from a patient. And we train algorithms using deep learning and machine learning methods in order to differentiate so different patterns according to the diagnosis method or the prognosis method that specific patient was characterized based on gold standard methods. So I can give you a specific example. In the case of Alzheimer's disease, that is the main focus of our research right now. So we receive samples from Alzheimer patients that were diagnosed based on lumbar puncture or PET scan, that are the gold standard methods in order to diagnose Alzheimer's. We obtain this optical fingerprint, this scatter radiation pattern from their samples, and we also obtain this scatter radiation pattern from control subjects. And we train our AI algorithms using advanced signal processing methods in order to train them to differentiate and to be prepared when exposed to a completely blind set of samples to differentiate to which group of patients a new subject belongs to. So in a practical way, it's what we are doing right now and what is the technology can be capable of. So basically, so the transformational way of this concept of intelligent lab on fiber is replacing the old way of so functionalizing and putting complex chemical compounds at the surface of fibers that are very expensive, time-consuming to fabricate, and replace that using a library of artificial intelligence models that you can choose for what you are screening to. So using the same fiber and using the same hardware, so basically revolutionizing the way the biomarker detection could be made. So basically, all of this started with the capabilities of the light to interact with particles. And I don't know if you are familiarized with the capacity of the light to interact with the particle and trap it. So basically isolate the particle and manipulate it without physically touching it, but it is possible to do it. So basically our technology can either analyze microparticles, so with the sizes above more or less 1 micrometer. And in that case, we can isolate the particle as, for example, a cell, trap it, and at the same time analyze through its signal. And do a classification based on the identification of which particle we are trapping, or we can do at the same time, we can analyze an ensemble of particles, a medium that, for example, it's a blood sample, and have an insight about the composition, about the peptides, the extracellular vesicles, the metabolites that composes that medium, and have a digital fingerprint of that could be associated with a clinical outcome. So these two images represent what I was explaining. So here you have our optical fiber. We have a lens at the top of the fiber. This lens is capable of focusing the light in order to have the force enough to trap the particle. And here you have a human cell that is trapped. And what we do is that we inject a laser beam that is focused and trap the cell. And at the same time, we receive the backscatter radiation, so the light that interacts with the cell, the human cell, and we collect that pattern and we extract features, so time and spectral based features that constitute our biophysical features that characterize the Brownian motion of this particle. And sorry. and we do our classification. So a simple example is to detect, for example, if this cell is a cancer cell or is a normal cell. In this second cases, for example, our optical fiber tip dipped into a blood sample. It can be dipped into a blood sample from an Alzheimer patient or a control patient, a control subject, and we receive our pattern. That is a reflection of an ensemble of metabolites, peptides, extracellular vesicles that are flowing in the complex fluid, and we do our classification if this sample belongs to a class of subjects or not. So this is a microscopic image of our lens at the tip of the fiber, and this is a simulation in order to have an overview of how the light can be propagated using our lens. So I imagine that is too physics for this type of conference. I'm so sorry. But what is very interesting, it's in this video, you can show a cell, a human cell, a cancer human cell being trapped by the fiber tip at the tip of the optical fiber. So basically the laser is on, and when the fiber tool is displaced, you can see that the cell is moved along the fiber tool. So basically it's the effect of optical fiber trapping that I was talking about before. So basically, in very general terms, what we do is we acquire these optical fingerprints. That is basically so the reflection of the Brownian motion of small molecules, small particles scattered the light that we inject through the lens at the tip of the fiber. We apply signal processing methods, and then we extract a bunch of features, and then we apply several types of machine learning and deep learning methods, depending on the type of the use case that we are working on. We either apply supervised learning methods or unsupervised learning methods, depending on the purpose of the project. So for example, in terms of the supervised learning, it happens when we have access to the ground truth. For example, as the case of the Alzheimer, we receive the samples and we know the associated label of the diagnosis. But it happens when we unsupervised learning projects, when, for example, we want to we don't know any labels about the subjects and about the subjects whom the samples we are analyzing. And for example, the partners that we are working with are interesting to see if after a specific drug administration, we have different optical blood profiles within that set of subjects that took the drug. So basically, we apply unsupervised machine learning methods in order to see if we have the cluster of patients, and then we try to associate and study specific metadata and the physiological analysis based on analytical analysis based on other complementary tests in order to see if there is a pattern about that clustering that our optical fingerprint was capable of establishing. So basically, in a general overview, what we are capable of doing is providing an optical fingerprint of the health state of the subject in a simple way, in an agnostic way, so we can look, we can screen a sample one time, and we can look and apply different models in different times for different questions that we want to do. We can do patient screening, patient diagnosis, patient monitoring, and also help to accelerate the development of new treatments as well. And I will explain why in later. And all of this is very fast because we can do a prediction in less than a minute, and there is no need for any preparation of the sample using our device. As I said in the beginning, so the physics foundations of the technology are based on the Brownian motions of the particles that are flowing complex fluids. So we cause a specific force, and we bite the optical beam that is focused on the particles, and we basically took a picture that is a digital signal of all these particles that are flowing, that are metabolites, peptides, proteins, and we associate these with clinical outcomes, and the machine learning and deep learning methods learn this association, and they are capable of replicating these into completely unknown and unseen scenarios. So basically we started so with this lab bench setup, not this in specific, but with one of these types, and now we were able to build and assemble all the components in a portable device that can be deployed and is being used in our clinical partners. And then I would like to explain you and show you some of the use cases where the ILof technique is being used. So basically, I would like to start with a first use case, our first validation proof of the technology that was in the area of cancer. So we started to apply this technology by so trying to differentiate human cancer cells in digestive cancer. So basically, the scientists that we were working with figured out that there were small sugars at the surface of these circulating cancer cells that were circulating in our bloodstreams that could be key in order to predict if a specific cancer, digestive cancer, would metastasize or not. And these sugars, if would be small, so the probability of metastasization would be higher rather than if the sugars are larger. So basically, we tried to, through the optical trapping capabilities of the platform, we've tried to trap cells whose the sugar were smaller. So basically, we used cells with the same genetic background, but one type was genetically modified in order to have the glycans associated with the poor prognosis, with the high probability of metastasization, and the other type of cells were genetically modified in order to have not having that specific modification. And then, so the idea is, so if the question was if our tool was capable of trapping one of these, so several types of these cells, and identify automatically what was the type of cell that was trapped. And so you can see here, so all the types that were trapped, examples of the cells that were trapped, and associated fingerprints. So I would say that at naked eye, they seem quite noisy and you cannot differentiate. So for example, so the mock cell, it's the one associated with the less the less difficult prognosis, so the smaller probability of metastasization, and HT6 so associated with a higher probability, and clearly you cannot differentiate any pattern here that you can at naked eye to identify that there is a specific difference at naked eye. So basically, applying our technique, we were able to differentiate these cell types using an accuracy and F measure above 90%. Which was a very promising result that was published at the time, that pointed us a very promising so application of this technology in order to stratify patients. So in a first point for cancer disease. Then we've tried to apply these to smaller particles, as I said. We've tried to differentiate subpopulations of particles produced by these cells, the extracellular vesicles that I explained in the beginning of my talk. Extracellular vesicles produced by the cells that I was talking about. So they had the same features as the cells. So they had the same sugars at their surface, but this case was more interesting because they appear. They tend to appear in early stage rather than the cells, as I explained, and in more abundance in the bloodstream rather than the cells. So, and the prognostics associated with these type of particles are the same, is the same than associated with the cells. So larger so the length of the sugar at the surface is correlated with the probability of developing the cancer, developing the metastasization of the cancer. So basically, we were also able, benchmarking with the techniques so far so located in the clinical labs, to do a classification, a differentiation of the ones extracellular vesicles, the ones that were correlated with a higher probability of metastasization, so in concentrations lower than the benchmark and the gold standard methods that have been used in research institutions and hospitals. But the most interesting case, and the one that we are focusing now, it's exactly the Alzheimer disease. So as you know, Alzheimer disease is one of the epidemics of our century. So now, besides COVID-19, so there has been 14 years of research, more than 400 clinical trials, and hopefully there is one drug approved in the market, but it's still some kind of controversy related with it. So clinical trials in Alzheimer disease, they are very expensive. So developing treatments for Alzheimer's is Alzheimer's, it's the most expensive disease from the drug discovery market. Basically, it is 7 times more expensive developing a treatment for Alzheimer's rather for cancer. So the reason for that, it's because recruiting patients, it's very painful. So basically, in each 100 patients that are recruited initially for a clinical trial, about 90 leave the trial because of the invasiveness of the tests, because they have to be submitted to lumbar puncture or PET scan. The problem is that, as you can see in this graphic, after being after the 10 that remain, only 2 are considered have the right biological fit, because 8 are later discarded because they made the tests and they realized that they have not actually Alzheimer. So that is the problem. What we are trying to do is try to accelerate and facilitate the development of new treatments by facilitating and reducing the time and the costs of the clinical trials for Alzheimer's disease, and by providing a solution based on blood screening that could be, using ILof technology, that could be integrated in pre-screening stage, so basically acting as a funnel in order to select the patients that has a high probability of having the right biological fit before being submitted to so invasive and expensive tests as the lumbar puncture or the PET scan. In that regard, so we can reduce about 40% of the costs and about 70% of the time in order for a new patient to be recruited for a clinical trial. And of course, take the patient for the center of the question and turn the clinical trial more convenient for him. So this is some results that we have been getting so far. So this is a study that we conducted where we were able to prove that we can differentiate using our optical fingerprints Alzheimer patients from control ones with a ROC AUC above 85%. So the results that we have been having, they are very promising, and we are also able to identify specific and detect in blood-based samples gold standard biomarkers that are being used in order to do Alzheimer pre-screening. Just to finalize, because I'm seeing that I'm running out of time, I would like to explain to you that and give you another example of a use case that we are working in besides Alzheimer. So we are also working with several clinical partners, also including here Hospital São João in Porto, where we are developing a model in order to predict the severity of and the evolution of COVID-19 infection. So at the time of diagnosis, we collect a blood sample, and we are able to predict if a patient is going to the ICU or not. So basically, after the confirmation by PCR of the infection, we built a model that we followed up what was the path of these patients, and so in a retrospective study where we developed this model, and then we are now validating it, and we have published a study where we proved that in comparison with the clinical standard procedures that were based on comorbidities analysis and other blood-based analysis as lymphocytes counting or, for example, protein C reactive analysis, we can significantly provide a better performance outcome prediction in order to inform the clinicians about what would be the evolution of a patient at the time of the diagnosis. so with that, I conclude that this is what is our medium long-term view for this platform. Is try to expand not only for this type of disease, but of course for other use cases. But most importantly, is to try to build this cloud-based library of fingerprints and phenotypes of individuals, and that could accelerate the development of new treatments and could help to understand how to accelerate the understanding of new diseases, and especially how we can have an impact in the society for trying to facilitate the treatment and the disease variability understanding of chronic diseases that have been having had high impact on all the elderly population. So thank you so much. So I'm open to questions. And I would like to finish my talk here. And so it was a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for this invitation.
Wow, Joanna. It's an amazing presentation. And
sorry for two technical things.
Yes, it's too technical for us that we are not from the healthcare industry. It's not so easy to understand all of this technology that you are gathering together to provide this kind of solutions that seems to be something that will revolutionize the way that we diagnose and treat one of the diseases, the very important diseases for humankind. And I'd like to know, and first of all, are you in developing phase? What are you doing? Is just something that you put together a lot of technologies, and you told you are in the Hospital São João making some tests, but do you have something that are already being deployed and producing, or are you in the development phase? And how do you see this, and how do you see the next steps to go to the market?
Mm-hmm. That is a very interesting question, Fernando. So basically, as I said, we are in a validation stage because all of these, of course, all the medical devices and all the devices that help physicians to take decisions have to be validated and have to comply with several rules about the medical certification guidelines. So we are in a state where we are working with all of these stakeholders in order to gather all the results that we need in order to prove the validity of the technology. But at the same time, so physicians are using the technology, are providing us feedback about it, are taking feeling what is the value that could bring to its common clinical practice. And we are also working with the pharma industries where so we are demonstrating the value of our technology, but basically, as I said, we are in a validation stage. But quickly, after collecting all these data, we can go very quickly and agile way to the market.
Oh, nice. In the same sense that you are talking about, which are the main challenges for startups like ILof that would like to innovate in health industry? Because it seems to be it's a long journey. Yeah, you have to validate and then you have to prove it. Everything in the healthcare industry takes a long time, a lot of investments. And how do you see which are the main challenges to overcome these difficulties?
So I think that one challenge that probably a lot of startups that are working both in artificial intelligence and healthcare is tried to explain sometimes what is the meaning and try to demystify the explainability of artificial intelligence models, and that could not harm the decision of clinicians because it's simply an algorithm. So I think that sometimes it's so it must be implemented some kind of mechanism of terms of understanding in order for the healthcare system to be more open-minded to the artificial intelligence and deep learning methods, because they could really help, not of course to take final decisions, but to as a support to the decision makers. So I think that it's one of the challenge that honestly probably other startups are feeling as well. And so developing a product for healthcare that uses artificial intelligence could be hard to explain and to get confidence from the stakeholders that you are trying to fill in, and from your customers as well.
Yeah, nice. And I think another thing that in this kind of technology that you are developing, you are putting together the health industry, medicine, physics, computer science, artificial intelligence, all of these fields all together. I can imagine that it's not easy to get people to work, and people must come from all these different fields, and to put to make a team to work together. And but I'd like to ask you first, how is the size of the team, ILof team? Then, which are the specialties, the profiles of these people working with you, and also which are the most difficult kind of employee to contract, to hire for this kind of job and put all together. We have different specializations, different expertises, so I think we have maybe some are more difficult to hire than others. How do you see this kind of thing about teams?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question. So basically, we are not a big team, but we are almost 20 full-time right now. So our tech team is divided between so all the multidisciplinary areas that our product has to have, like for example biophotonics, like photonics, biology, data science, software. So, and we've tried to mount a culture where we work all together in order to build this product, because all these areas have to be interconnected itself, and it's not it is difficult because but at the same it's beautiful, because you have biologists working with physicists and computer scientists and software engineers. And about your third question, actually, it's very difficult to contract software engineers and cloud engineers, because since our platform is an IoT platform, because we received an investment from Microsoft and we are building this together, and so our device is fully connected with the cloud. and we have to comply with all the certifications regarding the medical industry, about data protection and so on. So I think that it's the most difficult profiles to recruit. It's basically software engineers.
As everybody.
Yeah.
As everybody. All the market complain about this.
Exactly.
People. Yeah. And our last question, we are going to run out of time. And when you see that this kind of personal approach in medicine would become a new standard, do you see in the near future, or it's a long future away? How do you see that? This is a new approach, and when you present something, we are very proud of what you are doing, and we have a hope. Whoa, there is something different here, but otherwise we have some resistance maybe in medicine team or medicine side. How do you see the evolution, and when will this become some more common using this in treatments?
First of all, thank you so much, Fernand, for your words. But fortunately, I think that it could be near, in a near future, because I'm been seeing this by interaction with the physicians, because they are very excited about these new technologies, and knowing more about how they work, and so trying to involve them in their usual clinical practice. I think that the only thing that must be slightly adapt here, and probably I would not say facilitated, but adapted to this new area of artificial intelligence and so on. It's the part of the certification and regulation and so on. But now that, for example, a deep learning based detection method was approved in the United States, for example, so I think that a light in the tunnel is being seen. So basically there is hope all in all this process for this kind of technologies could be certified in a quick way and smoother way.
Wow, great. Unfortunately, we are run out of time. We are finishing your presentation, and I'd like to thank you very, very much again, because it's the second time you have accepted our invitation to stay here with A2AI. And this is an honor, and we are very proud to have you here, because what we are doing is something, it's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you very
so much, Fernand. Thank you so much to all. Have a nice day.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Bye. Okay, people, let me share my screen again. One moment. And okay. And
Estamos vendo a sua tela aí, Fernando. Tá tudo direitinho.
okay. Okay, people, I want to remember you once again that you can make your check-in in order for you to have the participation in our random, and we are going to ask you to take a picture of our QR code or type bit.ly -I2AIXP, and pay attention on what are you writing in your name or your email because this data is the main principal data that we are using to issue your certificate. And we will have it, then our next presentation that will be at 7 o'clock in the evening. We will have the people that will be awarded with this kit from Suzano. It's a very interesting kit, and I'd like to see you, someone of you, very happy to having this kit with you. And I would like to invite you to ask her to call I2AI, and we are very proud to have our consulting products that we are launching right now. And if you have problems and if you want to start your journey or develop your strategy for digital transformation, you can count on with our consulting team. And also we can help you to be compliant with LGPD and also with the data governance that is all the companies need to be compliant. We will be very happy if you can call us and we can help you to solve this kind of problems. And remember, our next session will be at 7 o'clock in the evening, and we will have Tulsi Doshi. Tulsi is a people that a product lead from Google, and she will talk about machine learning fairness and responsible AI. And also tomorrow we have Brent Barron from Cypher, and on Thursday we have Dev Karan from Blue Dots. That's another very, very interesting application. So I hope to see you at 7 o'clock in the evening for our next session. And I would like to finish, I would like to acknowledge our sponsors, H2O, Suzano, Semantics, EducaCross, and ProInfoFIA, that they are sponsoring our this event, and I'd like to congratulate and to say thank you to all of them. So with this, we are finishing our transmission for today, for this afternoon, and I hope to see you all again at 7 o'clock for another presentation. Thank you very much, and see you in brief.
Okay, terminamos.
Finished.
Fechou tudo aí, Igor?
Nossa.
Os dois, o primeiro e o segundo canal?